Locked in a cell with 23-hour confinement and no escape from isolation, Diddy's reality behind bars is both shocking and relentless. The harsh conditions offer no respite as he endures the unyielding nature of solitary confinement, where every moment is a reminder of the brutal reality he faces behind closed doors.
For injuries during the February 22nd incident, multiple incarcerated individuals were medically assessed and treated for minor injuries in the facility. So I guess there was no knives around, Murphy said. 2 incarcerated individuals sustained injuries requiring outside medical treatment. That's the knife play. Hey, you know? Now, Diddy sitting here going through all this, got to go through his trial, you know, so we're going to show some different pictures of Diddy so you understand. Diddy going through it right now, right? So now, what is it? Murphy refused to comment on the injuries sustained by the inmates involved in the fight. He added no jail employees were injured. See, that's all they care about. No jail employees were injured. Hey, you know? So Diddy caught up in all this melee right now. Mogul said his sources in the federal jail said more than 40 prisoners were involved in the melee, adding race riots and becoming more common.
In a twist that has shocked both the public and his family, a court moment saw Diddy's son break down in tears after explosive revelations by his attorney. How did one of hip-hop's biggest icons end up facing such harsh conditions? What does this mean for his legacy? Today, we delve deep into the inner workings of the Metropolitan Detention Center, examining the controversial lockdown that led to his current predicament. The courtroom drama surrounding his case uncovers a connection between Diddy's fate and a personal tragedy, adding complexity to a story that continues to captivate the world.
The first is the vast majority of the people who were held at MDC Brooklyn have not been convicted of anything. They're presumed innocent. And that presumption of innocence doesn't mean anything if we're going to put them in a place and say, well, you know, there's reason to believe that you committed a crime, and so now you deserve to be punished extraordinarily. Okay, that's not how the American criminal system works. That's just not a way that other human beings, should be treated. Everybody's life at MDC Brooklyn matters equally. Certainly matters to the people who love and care about them, and we need to be treating those human lives with dignity. And so, you know, it's just not. It's not a tolerable situation, and unfortunately, until there's more political will to really implement more meaningful reforms at the jail and address the chronic understaffing, the intransigence, the lack of adequate medical care, you know, all these issues that we've been discussing today, it's going to remain a hellhole.
There's no question. He presumed because it would be very difficult for someone like him to be a flight risk. Okay, so you figure I'm selling the jet. Here are the keys to the jet. Here's the collateral to my $50 million mansion in Florida. I am flying to New York on my own accord. I will turn myself in. So you rationalize or convince yourself I'm so high profile in public and I'm going there on my own. They're not going to take me in. But we know the government likes to make examples out of people, and the government's doing a good job here. They're focusing what too many people tend to forget about, the victims. So while it's difficult for Diddy, I know, to be confined in a cell for 23 hours a day, it might not be as hard as the victims they allege he created. Let's focus on them. Let's put them first. And if he can begin to do that, he's going to get more of what he wants, freedom and potentially bond. But certainly, if I were a betting person, I would have bet that he was going to walk out of there into his mansion on 24 hours a day lockdown, even with security guards outside the house. He's not going anywhere, but at least he's in.
The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is far from an ordinary prison. Recently, a violent race riot involving over 40 inmates forced the facility into modified operations, leading to a near-total lockdown. Former enforcer G. Burrell described the harsh reality. Phones are likely shut down, and inmates are confined to their beds for 23 hours a day. Movement becomes a luxury that no one can afford. Though Diddy and high-profile detainee Luigi Moan were not involved in the riot, the chaos has engulfed the entire facility. Federal enforcement officers now guard the perimeter, with every call and movement under strict surveillance. The relentless isolation has transformed the detention center into a pressure cooker of tension and uncertainty.
And Gene Borello, he's a former mob enforcer who served time in the very same unit where Luigi is housed. And as of now, Luigi's not allowed to have visitors in that unit. Gene, good to have you back on the show. Thanks so much for doing this. What is a modified operation plan? What does that look like?
So if it's a lockdown, the whole building is locked down, it means it's a security risk, which means they will not let you out. Under any circumstances, you have to be escorted by a cop to go anywhere. Like I said, just for a lawyer, you'll only be able to be escorted to the lawyer, and that's it. Which means that if it is locked down, there will be no, in order to shower, you have to come out the cells one by one, and you get like 3 minutes each to even shower. So that means that like you just said, it's a race riot. So they can't let nobody out until they know for sure that people aren't going to attack each other when the cells open up.
So, I mean, it sounds like it's miserable. If you can't have any freedom within an arrangement where you have no freedom, it sounds like this is going to make a lot of people mad.
Well, they don't really care. And let me tell you what's going to happen here. It could even go, if it was gang members, let's just say if it's like two big, powerful gangs that are killing each other, they'll lock it down countrywide in the feds. They won't let nobody out in the feds because when gangs beef with each other, it goes through the whole system.
We sorry to interrupt. We heard that, where Luigi and Diddy are, it's different, right? It is not the same.
Yes.
It's not your dad's lockup.
Right.
How will this modified plan, though, affect them? And might these race riots move their way into that unit as well? What happens to them? How different will their daily activities be?
Well, like I said, they're in dorms, so you're just going to be on your bed, but there'll be no phones. I mean, if you get a nice top, I'm pretty sure actually, the phones are probably shut down, so you won't even be able to use the phones at all. You'll basically just be on your bed all day. You go to the bathroom and back to your bed. It depends on the officer that you have on. He might let you sit in the day room. Not supposed to, but you won't be able to go into the room and work out. You have to stay on your bed, and that's it. There's no commissary. There's no movement in the building. There's nothing. Just get your meals, and that's it.
Can't imagine that. I can't imagine any of it, for starters. But I have about 10 seconds left, but I have to ask you this. How long could this go on?
So I've seen it go on for a month. It depends on who's beefing with each other. If it's something that could trickle down to all the prisons, they won't let you move. They don't care how long it is. It has to be cleared up.
Amid the backdrop of a harsh institutional lockdown, Diddy's legal battle intensifies. Facing charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and transporting individuals for illicit activities, his case has become one of the most talked about trials in recent memory. Despite numerous appeals from his legal team, requests for bail or a transfer to a less restrictive facility have been denied by the judge. The ruling is clear. Diddy will remain in his prison cell for the foreseeable future. The defense strategy now focuses on proving that, even under these draconian conditions, he poses no flight risk. With the trial date set for May 5th, 2025, every moment in custody adds weight to the unfolding drama.
We have heard a lot about the prosecution's case against Diddy. And we've heard news conferences, we've seen raids, we have heard what the federal government has. And one of the things they talked about right out off the jump was they seized tapes. And a lot of people thought, oh my God, there are celebrities on these tapes involving freak-offs.
Right. Well, we've heard allegations about other celebrities connected to Diddy. But the people on Diddy's side say, we're getting things all mixed up here.
And she blames the media.
Right. She being Tenny Garagos, who is one of the attorneys representing Diddy in the federal indictment, in the criminal case against him. And she sat down with Harvey and Mark Garagos for their Two Angry Men podcast. Yes, Tenny is Mark's daughter. But this is the questioning. You got into her talking about what Diddy's defense was going to be.
I got to tell you,
they're really preparing those witnesses, and they're trying to establish one of three things. The difference between sex trafficking and consensual sex is force, fraud, or coercion. They are going through their victims, and they're saying, how can I establish force? How can I establish coercion? Probably not so much fraud, right? Because ultimately, this case is about sex trafficking. There's prostitution counts and is different. Prostitution just means that the sex happened, but there was an exchange of something of value. But the feds aren't trying this case to convict Diddy of prostitution. They want to get to sex trafficking. So their entire focus right now is to prove that this involved that force or that coercion, right? Was it people being drugged against their will? Was there security? Were there weapons, right? That's why even though he wasn't charged with the weapons violation, they really talked about the rifles, the assault rifles in the indictment. So I think that's going to be the focus of the Department of Justice in this case. How can we prove that force? How can we prove?
Inside the prison, the conditions are as grim as the headlines suggest. Diddy is confined to the Special Housing Unit, infamously known as the Hole, a small windowless cell where even the most basic comforts are stripped away. Forced to sleep on a concrete floor with only a thin mattress, he has reportedly refused to eat the prison food, fearing it might be tampered with. Rumors even suggest that fellow inmates have taunted him by reciting fragments of his own song lyrics, a bitter reminder of a past when his name symbolized power and success. These harsh conditions highlight the systemic challenges of incarcerating a celebrity of Diddy's magnitude, whose fame and influence only complicate his already grueling experience behind bars.
Presume he's been in custody this whole time, right?
Well, yeah, I think he's been in custody since he was arrested last night. And what we're going to see next is a court hearing today, the unsealing of this indictment, which will tell us exactly what he's charged with and what the factual allegations are. He may be asked to plea, and importantly, there'll probably be some discussion of whether or not he can be released on bail, which I expect the government to oppose given the seriousness of these allegations and the fact that he's a potential flight risk. But all of that's going to come up pretty quickly because he's going to want to get out of jail.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very wealthy man, so that bail will have to be very, very high if you want to keep him there. Based on your experience with cases in federal courts, how serious could these charges be, and how can we expect? Well, we heard a little bit from what Combs' lawyers have said, which is they, feel this whole thing is unjust. But what sort of charges could we be looking at? How serious?
Well, I think the charge is going to be very serious. I mean, first of all, you don't go after somebody like Sean Combs unless you have very serious charges to bring. The U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York is not messing around. So they think they have a strong case. They think they have evidence.
You can't recork this bottle. It's impossible. And if he could go back in time, I'm sure he would have given Cassie, $100 million to make this go away at this point. But it's impossible. And I think it's, he could be looking at obviously not just a significant change in his life moving forward in the public sphere. He could be looking at real jail time. I mean, we're sitting here doing this interview right now. We don't know whether or not Diddy's going to get bail or if he's going to get released. He has one of the best attorneys in the country, Mark Agnifilo, tremendous attorney. But I think that they could very easily keep him in. He's a flight risk, and he's alleged of doing some really heinous things, even
Throughout these developments, the legal and personal narratives remain tightly intertwined. Defense attorneys argue that the inhumane conditions at the detention center only heighten the injustice of prolonged incarceration. They contend that the relentless 23-hour lockdown, monitored calls, and severe isolation constitute a punishment beyond the legal verdict. Federal prosecutors, however, maintain that such stringent measures are necessary to prevent witness tampering or further unrest. As both sides clash in a legal battle over justice and human rights, the overarching question looms. Can a man who once reigned supreme ever reclaim his freedom? Or has his legacy been irreversibly marked by confinement, with his name forever tied to the stark reality of prison life?
A lot of people haven't witnessed things, Like, I think a lot of people go through life without any heartache and pain, any struggle, any real, a lot of times you talk to people and you go, oh, they'll say stuff like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Or, oh yeah, that's so sad. But in their life, at this point in their life, they have never said something like, yeah, I saw that, I witnessed that, I was there, because a lot of people aren't going to experience what you experience,
it could be based on where they live at. But like, like I said, growing up in the ghetto, I'm just saying, like, you gotta think about, I'm here talking about this stuff, and I was a person that was in the ghetto and seeing a lot of bad decisions being made. I could write a book. I could literally write a book on my life story. But yeah, I don't know. Like, that's why it's like, because a lot of people talk about the Luigi situation. A lot of people believe that he's innocent. Some people say they don't think that that's him. Whatever you may believe, whatever. I'm just saying, like, once you get in jail, it's like all bets are off.
Every element of this saga, from the brutal lockdown to the heart-rending courtroom moment, converges on one stark reality. The system's grip is unyielding. The judge's ruling that Diddy will remain confined echoes through every monitored call and isolated hour, while his son's emotional breakdown reveals the personal toll of public scandal. As this drama unfolds, the stakes remain impossibly high. The legacy of a once powerful icon now hangs in the balance, forcing us to question whether fame can shield one from the consequences of their actions. In the end, the truth is as relentless as the prison walls.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the judge really looked into that, because although we know that these are allegations, there's been no evidentiary hearing as to whether or not these actually rise to the level of obstruction. Just the idea that he is not even following the rules that are enlisted by the prison is already a sign to the judge that he may not follow any conditions that are set forth. And so those type of allegations, whether or not there's been an evidentiary hearing, just speaks to the actions of the individual while incarcerated. And if you're not having good behavior at that time, the judge is going to look to say that, even if you're let out and left to your own devices, it's not going to get any better. So that has not played in his favor at all.
So in their most recent filing, the government writes, the government's grand jury investigation of the defendant, including the defendant's obstruction related to this criminal case, is continuing. As part of that investigation, the government has sent grand jury subpoenas and document requests to the Bureau of Prisons, the BOP, for the defendant's monitored communications, including calls and emails. From those materials, the government has learned that the defendant has persisted in engaging in obstructive conduct since he entered BOP custody. Among other things, the defendant has engaged in unauthorized communications practices, including three-way calling on the monitored phone lines, use of other inmates' phone access code, or PAC numbers, to make phone calls on the monitored phone line, and use of a third-party text messaging provider through the BOP's monitored email system. Each of these methods of communications is prohibited by BOP. Furthermore, as set out in the government's November 15, 2024 brief, the defendant used these unauthorized methods of communications to continue to engage in obstruction, including by instructing third parties to reach out to witnesses and attempting to influence the jury pool in this criminal case. Now look, prosecutors, they previously cited as an example this call from October 4th, where apparently he's speaking from jail to one of his adult.
Linking every angle back to the headline, the judge's decision that Diddy will not be released serves as a grim reminder that no amount of celebrity or influence can override the uncompromising rules of the system. While Diddy's fame once shielded him from the harsh realities many face, this ruling proves that even the powerful are not immune to the law's grip. Meanwhile, the public remains riveted by every new twist, as each development adds complexity to a case already mired in controversy. The emotional breakdown of his son in court stands as a heartbreaking counterpoint to the stoic defiance of a man once seen as untouchable. It forces us to confront the true cost of a life lived in the public eye, where personal pain is often overshadowed by scandal. As this story continues to evolve, one thing is certain: the saga of confinement, scandal, and personal loss is far from over. The grim lockdown, the inhumane conditions, and his son's emotional breakdown, are they the missing pieces to a puzzle that's redefined power in hip-hop? Or are we witnessing just another twist in a high-stakes battle where even the system can't contain the truth? To stay ahead of every shocking development in Diddy's legal saga, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the truth is coming and you won't want to miss it.